Well, hey everybody, how you going? Good. Okay, obviously you can tell we've got another guest speaker with us today. This is Kimberly Batson. Excuse me, I can't talk today apparently. She is the co-owner of Fabled Bookshop, and she is also passionate about the growth of Waco small businesses. So thanks to, again, Startup Waco, she has been able to join us today. And so welcome, Kimberly.
Thanks.
Thank you. So first off, would you give us a brief background of yourself and your career, where you started, how you progressed to where you are now?
Yep. First, just had a question. Has anyone been to Fabled downtown bookshop? For real? Okay, you have. Okay, awesome.
I got a jacket there.
A jacket there? All right. Well, just was curious. So we got 1, 2. So I'm from Waco. Grew up in Hewitt, old duplex right by Hewitt Elementary. Went to Midway schools and graduated and went to Baylor. When I was deciding what to major in, I majored in English and religion. And everyone always asked me, "Are you going to teach?" And I said, "I don't think so. This is what I love." So I majored in something I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I just knew I loved it. And finished Baylor and started working at Common Grounds coffee shop by Baylor campus, and also worked at a church here with high school kids. And did that for a couple years and loved it. Ended up managing Common Grounds. And then I moved to England for a couple years when I was 25. I worked as a tour guide for like a Texas-based company. So I would take high school kids all around Europe. It sounds like total dream job, which it mostly was, but it was also like so challenging. And then I worked at a church there in England as well. So got to do that for a couple years and then moved back to Texas and just didn't really know what was next, to be honest. I started dating my husband, Blake, and he was in the process of purchasing Common Grounds from the founder. There's a friend.
We got somebody coming in.
Oh.
She's like, "No, I'm not going to let him in." Okay, here you go.
Welcome.
Okay.
Anyway, so he ended up buying Common Grounds, and we got married, and that's what we did. We worked there together. We managed it together, and did that for a few years, and then until started having kiddos, and we opened up a few other concepts. Heritage Creamery, I don't know if y'all ever eaten any ice cream there, and a few other places. So it just kind of naturally evolved. And then I got an email one day out of the blue from a friend of a friend who had heard that I wanted to open a bookshop in Waco. She had this dream to open a bookshop here. And so we met up, and I was thinking, well, this is not the right time. I just had a kid. We've got all this other stuff going on. But our vision for what we wanted to see come to life was totally in sync. And so we say the conversation just kept going. And a few years later, Fabled opened. And so that's what I've been doing for about 5 years and learning a lot in the process. We opened 6 months before the pandemic. So having a brand new small business during that time was super challenging, and we made it through. We were scrappy, and we made it. So here we are.
So are you doing Common Grounds as well as Fabled?
I help a little bit. So
okay.
I am engaged like in the marketing, and I'm starting to re-engage more. I have a little bit more margin now. We have 3 kids. They're a little bit older, and I say older, they're like 7, 5, and 3. But
okay.
they're old enough to where I can have a little bit more space to kind of engage back into Common Grounds and some of the other things that my husband Blake just keeps doing.
Nice.
So
very cool. So our topic today we're talking about customer relations.
Yep.
And so got some questions for you. So how would you define the core principles of creating positive customer relationships in business?
Okay, this was a great question. I think that the core principle is knowing what your purpose is. I think you have to define what you want the customer experience to be. So before you even open your doors or in the early days, you need to know that, and that's going to inform everything you do to create the positive customer relationships. If that's unclear, then your customer will also read that, and they'll know that, like, what is actually going on here, or what is their message, what are they doing. So for Fabled, our purpose is to champion the transformative impact that reading can have on a person and a community. And everything we do, customer-wise, every event we have goes, hopefully is pointed toward that goal.
Sounds like a why statement, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah. So
That's your why.
For sure. And we wanted also to do that through, we want our customers to experience discovery. When they enter the store, you come in looking for one thing and you kind of discover something else that, piqued your interest. Nostalgia, like remembering why they loved reading, even like, I don't know if we have any readers here, but growing up, like that was something that I love to do. So wanting people to remember why they love it. And then community, we want people to experience community when they come in. So that's what we try to focus everything towards.
So it sounds like a lot that you have to be very intentional about the atmosphere that you want to create.
Yes.
Then in your environment, whether it be a retail business or any other business.
Yep.
So can you share some? I mean, you did a little bit, but can you share some specific examples of strategies that you've implemented to foster that welcoming environment?
Yes. So when y'all come to Fabled, because I know you're all gonna come take a visit there now. You'll notice that when you first walk in, it's very open. The ceilings are really high. There's big storefront windows, and we have these massive display tables where it's meant for you to just kind of like wander and linger and just really discover. And that's intentional. We want it to be a really like peaceful place. So we don't want you to walk in and it to be like bam, bam, bam. Like there's Yeah. Yeah, the kids section. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Did you go through the wardrobe? Did you see there's like a wardrobe entrance? Yeah. In our design of the space, we had the customer experience in mind from start to finish. So then you move into the cafe area where you can get coffee or a sweet drink or whatever, and you can sit. There's cafe tables, so that's kind of the community hub where people connect. And then we have couch areas where people can sit on their own. They can sit with whoever they came with, and those connection spaces. And then you move toward the back, and it's the taller bookshelves, and it's kind of darker and a little bit cozier, and that's kind of where you can get like lost in the stacks, to kind of just hunker away and find something. So that's kind of what we've done, just even within the space, to foster that customer experience of welcoming and then guiding the customer through the experience. And then the kids section, which we've got like a wardrobe entrance. I don't know if anyone's read the Chronicles of Narnia or heard or watched the movie or whatever, but they enter a magical world through a like old closet wardrobe door, and we created that at Fabled as well. So
I think that's a really cool idea.
It's so fun. I mean, I'm telling you, I think more grown-ups go through it than kids, but kids love it too. And then I think another strategy is our staff is just motivated to engage. They are like excited to help customers. They love the Fabled experience, and they want to like bring people into that as well. So, and then the last thing that we really go for at Fabled is to surprise and delight. So like the wardrobe entrance is something that is meant to like delight someone. They're surprised when they find it, and that's kind of what keeps people talking. That's what people take with them when they leave, or those surprising moments that they weren't expecting to have. So
very cool. Yeah. Again, it's very customer centric.
Yes.
So because I think my philosophy is you got to take care of your customers.
Yeah.
And so if you can focus on the customer experience,
Right.
then that is what helps create that environment.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So let's move on a little bit. So how do you leverage technology, if at all,
Mm-hmm.
to personalize those customer interactions and enhance the experience?
I feel like in the shop, it's pretty limited as far as like how technology engages our customers. But online, like we have a social media presence, and I feel like that is where you're trying to engage people that haven't even been to Fabled. You know, a lot of them haven't been. And so how do you communicate what you want to share and also make people feel connected to your business who might not even, go there often or that kind of thing. So I think that we really try to be true to our purpose, our message, even through social media, and build that anticipation so that when they do come, they're ready for the experience that they're going to have.
So is it kind of you've designed the website or have the website designed to encourage or invite them to come actually see the physical location?
I mean, we have, every time we post about an event, we have people say like, I wish I lived in Waco, or I wish I lived closer, or can you put this on Zoom? So we have some like Zoom events, book clubs, and book reviews and stuff that we do because we have a community outside of Waco that really loves Fabled. They just don't live in Waco, so they can't come here all the time. So learning like what energy do we give toward that community and what energy do we give toward, our local community, which is really what we focus on. But I kind of feel like it's a balance learning, what to invest in and kind of things.
So I think we've got a question though from our audience.
Can you share the story about the owl?
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Pivot to the owl. So when you walk into Fabled, there's like a 5-foot wooden owl greeting you. His name's Aesop. Definitely worth a visit if you come just for the owl. But the story behind that is like, it's not real. It's wooden. It's I mean that, maybe someday, goals. But the story behind the owl is like 10 years ago, a friend of a friend bought some land in College Station, and it had like wooden statues all over it. And so my friend saw the owl one, and she was like, Kimberly would want this. So she messaged me and said, hey, this is free. Would you want this 5-foot wooden owl statue? And of course I was like, absolutely yes. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but if I have a bookshop someday, this owl is going to go in there. And so we just drove down to College Station, loaded up this 300-pound owl, and put it in a storage unit for like 4 or 5 years. It just sat there because Fabled wasn't even like a concept yet. And so then several years later, we rolled him in and put him front and center, and now he greets everyone. So it really was meant to be. He's even standing on a pile of books, like wooden and carved books. I mean, it really was like he was meant to be at Fabled. So we love him, Aesop. He's kind of our mascot.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So again, talking about the customer experience a little bit. So how do you handle negative customer feedback or complaints? What approaches have proven effective in resolving those concerns and retaining customers?
So good. Okay. First and always, just make them feel heard. Just listen. That's all they really want. And sometimes they don't even necessarily want you to like make it right or do anything, some big gesture. They just want you to hear what they have to say. And so if you ever find yourself in any sort of like customer service situation, just make them feel heard. I hear you. Thank you for sharing. I received this feedback. Just let them know that they're heard. That's number one. I kind of like to say diffuse the tension rather than be defensive. And so if you get defensive, then that's just going to aggravate the conflict. But if you can just diffuse it with listening, because at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot that you can do in that moment to like immediately make it right and all better. The first thing is just letting them be heard, and then doing what you can to repair, the moment. So, I think we really, we tell our staff, like, go 100% to resolve. Like, give them a free drink, replace the book, like, whatever we need to do. In fact, so I'm a part of a roundtable group of Christian CEOs. It's like 12 people. We meet once a month, and we just talk about, like, business issues, problems. We give feedback to each other, and it's really great. And one of the guys there mentioned that he was listening to a podcast about negative customer experiences, and how if you think of any company that you love, and you maybe have like 75% buy-in for this company, like, I like this company, they're cool, it's great. And then if something wrong happens where like they didn't deliver something, or they got your order wrong or whatever, if they can reconcile and repair that breakdown in an excellent, amazing way, then actually your buy-in for that company doesn't decrease, it increases, if that makes sense. So if someone messes up and they make it right in a huge way, then now your buy-in is 100%, whereas before it was just 70%. So even in those moments, you have the possibility to really capture your audience. And just because something goes wrong doesn't mean you've lost that customer. You can actually win them back with even more gusto if you really handle it well. So that's what we try to do. I mean, everyone misses it here and there, and it's just being humble and diffusing the tension and trying to, not be defensive and keep moving forward.
Reminds me, I think those are great concepts, and it reminds me a little bit of, these guys know I have a long history with Domino's, and Domino's has their policy is to wow the customer.
Yeah.
You apologize, you make it right, and you offer something extra.
Yeah.
And and very often, and I've seen it exactly that situation where when you can make it right to the customer, it can actually increase the loyalty.
100%.
Yeah. So I also have kind of a side follow-up question to that a little bit. So in retail, there's always the phrase, the customer is always right.
Yes.
So I'm just curious as to your take on that, because mine's a little different, but I want to hear your take before I tell you mine.
Well, first of all, I don't think there's bigger fans of Domino's than my children. Every time they see one, they're like, Domino's! They just like think it's the coolest place ever. I don't know. Anyways, okay, the customer is always right. I think it's a great place to start. When you're entering into retail, like, a great place to start. To me, it seems like the customer, I heard someone say the customer is always respected. The customer is always heard, feels better, feels more, realistic, I think. And so that's kind of where I would choose to start. The customer is always heard and seen. And let's start there. They're going to want to feel right. I mean, maybe the better stance is the customer always feels right. And your job is to hear them, see them, and respect them. So I don't know, what would yours be?
So I, for the longest time in my retail career, it was, the customer is always right. Well, anybody who's worked in retail knows the customer is not always right.
Yeah.
So that was my philosophy for the longest time. But then I was in an interview one time. It was a group interview, and that kind of question was asked. And the person, one of the respondents said, "Well, I don't believe the customer is always right, but I believe the customer always comes first." And I think that goes along with your one. That made an impression on me, because it's like, you know what? That's actually probably more true. then the customer is always right, that they always come first. So I think that goes along with your comment about the customer is always respected, always should always feel heard.
It's interesting too. It's kind of a juxtaposition because I also want to give my staff the benefit of the doubt. So like sometimes we've had a customer for the other day, for example, someone was doing something in the shop that was like kind of disruptive to the rest of the shop. And one of our managers, who is so kind, went up and just said, hey, do you mind shifting this behavior slightly? And then moved on. And then later that customer came to another manager and was like, this person was so rude. I'm really upset. And I know this manager did, and she said that, yeah, this person was really rude. I already said that.
Yeah.
So I hear this and it's like, okay, I want them to feel seen and heard, but I also am giving the manager the benefit of the doubt because I know her and I know that she does not approach people in a like rude, condescending way. So it's also like, well, I want my staff to know that I see them too. And I'm not just throwing them under the bus. Like I give them the benefit of the doubt, but I also need to address this customer. So even going it back to the customer, I'm so sorry. What can we do to make it right? But then not turning on the manager and saying, hey, you got this really negative feedback. Shame on you. It's like, okay, this was received the wrong way for whatever reason, but like I know that, but I trust you when you say that you didn't approach them in that way. So it's also, I don't know, it's a little bit of a give and take too, of wanting your employees to know that you've also got their back behind the story.
Yeah, it's almost like your employees are also your customers in a way, because
Totally.
you've got to take care of, not only you're trying to take care of your customers who come into the
100%.
store, but you take care of the customers who work in your store or in your business.
100%.
So shifting and pivoting a little bit on that.
Yep.
And we've touched about it a little bit, but what role do employees play in building those strong customer relationships?
Yeah.
And how do you train and empower your staff to deliver exceptional service?
So does anyone here have a job? Is anyone working? Okay. Where do y'all work? Just curious. Top golf. Okay, fun. Where else?
Chipotle.
Chipotle.
Oh, yeah, Foot
Foot
Locker.
Locker. Okay. Cool. Just was curious if anyone's kind of lived some of these customer stories and moments. Yeah. Yeah. But truly, like for all those places and everywhere that you will work, you're especially in a customer service, retail or food service job, like the staff is the number one experience that customers are having. So they're going to come there because they want to eat at Chipotle or they, or at Topgolf or whatever. But the experience is totally determined on what y'all make of it and what you will make of it. So I just think that the role employees in play is pretty much essential in everything. It's number one. Something that we do to train, we usually hire people who like to read. So that's kind of a given. People who are motivated by books, they love talking about books, they love recommending books. So I think first of all, just finding people who have, a connection to what we're doing is, and that's kind of on us to make sure that we're hiring the right people that fit in that.
So that's a culture thing.
Yeah,
The way I see it is it's a culture thing. Is you've got to find the person who's going to be the right fit for your organization and for the whatever position you're putting them in.
For sure. And I think some seasons we have a staff that's like a go-getters. Like they do not mind talking with customers. They're going to engage people and greet people. And then we have some seasons where our staff might be like a little bit more reserved. So we have to do more training on this is a great way to start a conversation or how to serve a customer. And we'll do incentives or, to like encourage them to connect. So it really changes season to season. It's not like a copy paste. Because some seasons we really don't have to encourage them as much to engage. And then some seasons we do. So it kind of changes depending on the staff, to be honest. But I think one big thing we try to do is always return to our core values and encourage the staff to implement those, and then positive reinforcement. Like whenever a staff does a great job, encouraging them, giving them a shout out at staff meeting or on our weekly email, and just trying to encourage like good behavior, the best behavior, try to encourage it by just positive reinforcement. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what about word of mouth? So what role does word of mouth have when it comes to a business? And can you share an example of how it influenced customer
Yes.
traffic or brand perception?
So I wish I could think of a particular instance, and I really tried. I couldn't
Okay.
think of a specific, but I've always believed that word of mouth is the real marketing. Like you can pay for Instagram ads all day long, but if people will talk person to person, like you're getting into conversations in places that even like those ads can't take you. And so if you can give some people something to talk about, like, hey, did you hear about this? Or I had this experience here. That's like the real marketing that it's invaluable and you can't buy that. Like you have to, it's organic and real. So, I think that that's the surprise and delight element. If you run a business where you're constantly trying, like you alluded to, like the customer always comes first and you're trying to create this experience, then that's going to travel farther and have much more power than like a Facebook ad, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And I made me think back to the old, I don't remember what brand it was the old shampoo commercial. They tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, and it just, the word of mouth can multiply
totally
the reach of
especially
what happens.
in a local business.
Yeah.
National branding, that is what it is. But for a local spot, like word of mouth, locals talking like, hey, you should try this place. I went, I loved it. Game changer.
So what strategies do you use to encourage positive word of mouth or incentivize customer referrals?
Yeah, we have a few, like, sign up. If you sign up here, you get a discount on this online thing. Like we do a few of those. We don't have a lot of, it's a bookshop, so a lot of our like referrals are just like, hey, I heard this was a good book on TikTok, or I heard, from a friend that I like have to read, Iron Flame or whatever. So a lot of in the book industry, a lot of your like customer referrals is just people talking about books in a lot of ways. But yeah, I think that positive word of mouth would be, again, just going back to like creating a good experience that someone can take with them. And we have people coming to Fabled from all over the state every week. All over the country because they're going to Magnolia. But like yesterday, a girl came in, I think she was probably 13, and it was her birthday. So her parents let her skip school, and what she wanted to do was go to Fabled for the day. So they literally came to Fabled. She had like a budget. She got to pick all these books, eat at the cafe, and spend her day there. And
And I'm sure your staff just created an experience.
Oh yeah, we were like, have a free drink, it's your birthday, like just wanting to, amplify that. Because it was, like drove in from Austin just to come to Fable for a birthday. That's so cool. So again, those are things where if you keep the experience strong, it's gonna do a lot of that customer referral work for you. But yeah. But these are good questions too, honestly, for me to think about. Is there stuff that we could be doing that we're not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or bring it to the team and kind of see, are we leaving anything on the table here?
Yeah.
So it's good.
So in talking about then customer retention, customer loyalty, how do you measure that customer loyalty and track those changes over time? Because obviously it happens seasonally to a certain degree as well. But so how do you measure that loyalty, that customer loyalty? And can you share any trends or insights that you've observed?
So we are kind of, backstory, the book industry, the only point of sale that you can use in a book industry is like old school Microsoft, like, you know, control F down page 2, like F2. It's so archaic, to be honest. So we finally were able to jump on the reward program train, because we wanted to make sure that we were, you know, it was going to be right, it was going to be good. So we launched a few months ago a rewards program. We call it Dragon's Gold, which, fun fact about Fabled, there is a hidden, not so hidden, massive dragon tail up on top of some of the bookshelves. We have these little doors that are way up high above the shelves, and people would always ask, like, where do those doors go to? Because they look like old trap doors or something. So we used to always say that the dragon lives there. And then we had a huge paper mache dragon tail made, and then head to make it look like it's coming out of the.
Oh, very cool.
Anyways, so we call it Dragon's Gold, and it's the rewards program. So we're just starting it out. So to be honest, I don't have a lot of like insight.
So that's kind of the start of your customer loyalty program that you have. Okay.
Yep. So it's been a huge win, but I think
sorry, you say it's been a huge win, but so what kind of reception have you got from your customers because of it?
Really positive. Yeah, they're excited because a lot of our customers are like there every week, there every month. Like they're excited to have something where if they're buying, then they're getting a little bit of a kickback. So that's been a huge win. Yeah. So I think that, you know, trends, I feel like we run reports all the time, sales reports. We can see who's bought what. So a lot of the trends don't necessarily come from like a customer loyalty program. We're just looking at sales. What are people buying? And then that's kind of what we're informing decisions on. Do we reorder this book? Do we return this book? Do we try for another book like it? Like we're constantly evaluating.
Again, kind of that old school, you know, evaluating the sales and what's selling and what's not. And
100%. Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you, because
Do you guys have, don't you have some sort of book club too, where you visit the book every month?
We have a subscription program. Yeah. So we got it for kids. We have it for kids and adults. You can subscribe to the genre. Like if you like YA, you can subscribe to the YA book club.
Young adults.
Every month. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what that means young adult YA.
Yeah, young adult. Or if you like fiction, if you like nonfiction, you can subscribe to that, and then you'll get a book every month. So yeah, which is a way to like bring the Fabled experience outside of Fabled, and reach those customers and those people who are really loyal to us, even though they like can't come to the shop every week. So it works out.
So building on that a little bit, so what are some unique challenges in maintaining customer loyalty in, you know, a competitive retail environment, and especially in the environment of a bookstore where in some cases some people are going away from you know, the hard copy, the hard feel of a book, you know, and how do you address them?
So when we started opening Fable, or working to open Fabled 7 years ago, this was like the number one question I was asked. Like, how does a bookshop make it in the age of Amazon when everyone, you know,
or Audible
there?
or
And what was interesting is that even during that time, there were these reports coming out from like Harvard Business Review, and they were saying, how are independent bookstores thriving when we're in this like age of Amazon? And because what was happening was all these big box stores. I don't know, has anyone ever seen You've Got Mail, the movie You've Got Mail? Okay, so it's a movie about...
Those of us who are a little on the older side.
Okay, so You've Got Mail, Meg Ryan, maybe you've heard of her. She owns this little bookshop, and then this big box bookstore moves in and essentially pushes out her little bookshop, and she falls in love with the big bookshop owner, but that's another story. And so there was this mentality of like, oh, little bookshops can't compete with Amazon or these, you know, big chains. And what's happening is actually the chains are really suffering, and the independent bookstores are actually doing really well and thriving. And this is like across the board. And so people are just asking, like, how is this happening? Like, what, you know, in this age? And again, we're 5 years into Fabled, and I will say that what I've learned is that people shop for convenience or experience. So, and if I need a book and I need it quick, if it's convenient, I'm going to go to Amazon. But if I want to have an experience, if I want to go somewhere and discover and hang out and get a drink and sit, then I'm going to go to Fabled. I'm going to go to blank. And it's the same where, like, if you want a cup of coffee, you can go to the convenience store and get a 39-cent cup of coffee that's terrible, and you're at a convenience store getting it. Or you can go to a coffee shop. You can go to, Common Grounds or whatever and spend $2.50, but you're getting the experience. And so that's what people are always making the choice. And even I do that too, like convenience or experience. So in this industry, in retail, I think you got to choose the one you're going for. Are you going to be a convenience place, or are you going to be an experience place? Because there's really like no middle ground, I don't think, at this point anymore. So,
And I think it goes. I feel like it goes back to then again talking about experience is what kind of experience can your employees give to your customers, and it goes back to that customer relations aspect of it.
Yeah.
So can you share your perspective on the future of customer relations in business? What trends or changes do you foresee?
So this is a pretty like well-known, I guess, like thought in the business world at this point. But essentially, every customer wants to be a part of a bigger story. So they're going to gravitate toward brands that are, a part of something bigger, or pointing to something like a little bit more elevated. And one thing they say is that you need to make the customer the hero of the story, and you're their guide. And so the brand is not the hero, but you're making the customer the hero, I guess, in what you're doing and what you're saying. So I think that is going to just keep getting honestly stronger and stronger as brands are trying to figure out, are we convenience, are we experience? And then I also think that the experience element is going to have to step up. Like what worked 30 years ago for a brick and mortar store is not going to keep that store open in this age where everything is online. Like you got to make it worth someone's while to like make the choice to come to your place and not just like order it on,
Order it on Amazon or wherever.
Yeah. So I think just, elevating the experience is probably the biggest thing that I feel like would need to happen.
Okay. I would kind of agree. I think it is going to go that way. The more we take care of, the more we kind of almost individualize the experience for the customers, then the more it can increase.
Yep.
So we've got a couple minutes, so I want to open it up to all of you. What questions might you have for Kimberly about her business, about customer relations? What would you like to know?
I don't know if you already said it, but like how you came up with the name?
I didn't. It's a great question. We wanted the name to be something that felt kind of old world, like it could have come from, a pub in Europe or something. But we also wanted it to be really rooted in Texas. And so we came up with the name Fabled because it points to this like mythical, legendary idea that, like the Knights of the Round Table and dragons and all that stuff from like old world. And then it also points to like the fabled, like tall tales in Texas and the, cowboy riding off in the sunset, that kind of thing. There's just that element in Texas of like something being bigger than life. So that's why we came up with Fabled. Yeah. It is still downtown.
Okay.
Yep. Still there. Yeah.
Like so big.
We sell cake? We don't sell cake. We sell other like dessert, like brownies and muffins and stuff. But should we sell cake?
Cake slices or something.
Okay.
Cake pops.
I'm
maybe.
down. My girls are obsessed with the Is It Cake show right now. I don't know if anyone's, but
That's
yeah,
what I'm not familiar with.
it's yeah, big.
Any other questions?
So like, have there been like situations where you were like any risk-taking situations for your business? Or, like, did you ever like have any concerns about your business, like, oh, not gonna succeed, or I don't know if I want to do anything.
Yeah,
Were there any moments like that?
Yeah.
You remember of?
it's all COVID was that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we opened our shop, and then 6 months later, we had to close our doors because there was like a mandatory shutdown.
Mhm.
So what's also kind of a cool backstory to that is when we opened the shop, we were just trying to figure out how to run the store. So we didn't launch our website when we first opened, and so we made a date. We were like, okay, so 6 months from now, March 19th, we're going to launch our website. And so we worked and did all the back end stuff that you have to do, and we launched our website March 19th, and we had to close our doors March 20th. And
Bit serendipitous there.
yeah, I mean, truly covered. So we immediately became like a online store, and we were shipping books all over. And one cool thing that we did to try to get scrappy, because we were like, are we going to make it through? We created something called an Indoorsy box. So these moms who were stuck at home with their kids all of a sudden needed something to entertain. Y'all were probably those kids. I don't know, how old were y'all when COVID happened? 4 years ago. No, you weren't there. Okay, y'all are in high school. Okay, great. Anyways, they're at home. They need things to do, and so they would buy one of these Indoorsy boxes, and we would send it to their house. And anyways, those carried us through and got us through COVID. So
That's very cool.
yeah, great question.
Anything else? Okay, I've got one more for you then.
Okay.
So what would you say are the most valuable lessons you've learned about building strong customer relations?
Ooh. Okay. Would say clear communication from a marketing standpoint and from an in-store and customer. The most clear that you can be will help confusion for the customer. So if you're promoting an event, thinking through everything that would feel confusing about the event and trying to solve those problems beforehand rather than on the back end. So clear communication, and then diffusing the tension and being generous is just the best way to overcome and create good customer relations, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I agree.
One final question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you think high school students would enjoy most of Fable?
Ooh. It kind of feels like you're in another world, and you go in and you're really in another place. You're going to discover something that you haven't seen that piques your interest. I mean, really, there's something for everybody there. So I challenge you to go get a drink, take a friend, and just see what there is that you discover. It's all there. So yeah, great question.
What time do y'all close?
Close at 9 on Monday through Saturday, and then 7 on Sunday. So yeah,
All right.
awesome. Thanks,
Well,
y'all.
Kimberly, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to check it out. Thank you. Yeah. Round of applause. Thank you. All right.